Yo, yo, yo. One step away, pre-season. Yeah. Let's just be real. Like, obviously, we've got next season coming up, but it's time to just have an honest conversation about certain topics and that, and just see how everyone's doing. We've been doing this for a year, but we haven't really kind of delved deep. So, first and foremost, how is everyone doing? Like, we've been doing this for a year, but we've been in a pandemic for a year. How is everyone doing just mentally as men? Like, we've spoken about one step away from for a long time. We've spoken to our audience about what that means and that. But how are you guys doing? Like, without kind of going in. For me, there's a lot of times when I'm fed up with a lot of things. There's a lot of times when things are happening right now, whether it's to do with race relations and kind of how things are changing. I think things are getting worse in certain areas. I'm seeing young children have to suffer certain types of abuse that I thought they didn't have to suffer from. I'm seeing things happen in the media, in the world, in society that I don't feel comfortable with. And it's draining. How are you, man, feeling? Like, what's going on in your mind? Because we obviously have something to do. We've got a season to kind of do for season 2. But how are you feeling in general as men? Like, using the one step away analogy as the foundation, I guess. Then I'm going to throw some questions out there.
I feel like I don't know who to trust with my thoughts. Does that make sense?
Okay. Extrapolate.
I think in this society, it's kind of come down to, well, during this pandemic and everything, everyone's at home and everyone's oversensitive. It's like your opinions, if it doesn't agree with everyone else, is seen as hate or like, yeah, or like you're almost like going against the grain on purpose, like trolling or something.
Yeah, but how dare you?
Yeah, and I think that's dangerous territory. So for me,
I think that territory was always there.
It was always there, but I think now it's heightened now.
It's heightened. This year's heightened. That you can't have an opinion about anything. Like, I get pulled over at work or whatever, and they want to talk about the vaccination or the fairness of what's going on, about people who are not taking things for granted or whatever. I just can't wait to get back to normal. All these kind of things. I just think about what is their mentality like. For me, it's a struggle. I'm not gonna lie, it's a struggle. But I've got good people around me that can kind of keep me grounded. But it's hard. Like, there's a distance between me and my children.
Yeah.
Even though the year has given us probably an opportunity to spend more time with the children, but I've not stopped working. So it's just almost like that opportunity's not been applied to me, to your situation, to my situation, because I'm still working. I'm not working from home. I'm out there doing in my van, day in, day out. So I ain't got the opportunity to sit down and even just do like a week's worth of homeschooling. Like, it's stuff like that, and I do look back at I think the kids. It's hard for them. It is hard for them, but I can't speak to anyone about. Well, I can't speak to my kids about how hard it is for me, because they won't really get that at the time. So yeah, I do. It's a struggle. It's eye-opening, massively eye-opening. Like, human behavior. If you're a psychologist now, and you can write a thesis or a piece of work or something, and you can refer back to what you did 5 years ago on a piece of work, I think all your hypotheses have been blown. Human behavior is, sociologists, your human behavior is like, you saw some true colours over this last year. Like, we're in a year in lockdown. Like, wow.
Good insight there, for me, like, I really want to say a term, but I don't want to get cancelled. I guess it speaks to people too flimsy, man. People are too flimsy for me, man. I can't handle it. You can imagine the term that I want to say. B-M. I just can't deal with the level of mixture of insecurities a mixture of placating, and I can't stand that placating business. Like you apparently you're a social warrior now, isn't it? Where anything that is seen as not socially acceptable, you must stand up and fight for it. But you don't fight for it with any vigor. And I say you, it's a general you. I'm tired of people placating to current news that just pops out, and you're only interested in it while it's current news. Everyone's gonna forget about the whole Meghan Markle business and Harry thing when the next story come out. Just as they forgot about the whole COVID pandemic thing. Just as they forgot about George Floyd. Just as they forgot about every single other thing that jumps up in the news. I'm tired of the majority of people, unfortunately, that fit into this, that this placate. Like, this is not for views. This is not for, like, these are people's lives, man. And I think that the social media aspect of this world has really come out to play during COVID. People rely on what they see on their mobile phone screen, on their TV screen, on their laptop screen in order to have a social judgment. That's not society. That's not society. But unfortunately, because that's apparently what all you're left with or all you're allowed to interact with, you now believe that is society. And therefore you have that screen, you have that buffer from real life to spur all kinds of coming out your damn mouth. And I'm just done with that business. On top of that, for me, work and separation from family and friends and loved ones, man. That's been difficult for me. But I've found my little space where I can actually function, is the correct word to use. So I've found this little circle where I can function, where I have a routine, and I've understood the importance of a routine. Find your routines, stick to it if it works. If it doesn't, change it up. Yeah, it's that simple, and that's going to be something that's going to stick with me regardless. Whether this whole COVID thing stops and you're allowed out and everything goes back to our normal, I'm sticking to what works. And what has worked for me for this past year has been a routine. Yeah.
Okay. T, you there?
Yeah, man, I'm here. Do you know what? The last few months, been a bit emotive for me. Reason being, there's been a massive self-growth that's happened. That's one. So a lot of self-growth, but also with that comes a lot of challenges. And we spoke about this in the pre-season when we're talking about once you've got your eyes opened, so to say, you start to see things differently. You zone in on things that most people just let pass by. You literally look at that and critique it on all sides. And that's been pretty much my life for the past year. Now, obviously, if we're talking about where we are as men, I'll be lying if I say I'm not scared for us as men. And why I say that, there's a few reasons. I'm going to say this as raw as I can be and as honest and truthful as I can be. Boys, there's a war that's been declared on men, period. Right?
Say that again.
There is war that's been declared on men, period. Now, it's even worse if you're a man of our skin. Obviously, we can go down and filter that as much as you want. But the worst part of it is a lot of men don't realize that yet. We're sleepwalking. into this. It's happening on all fronts. This is not me trying to discredit whatever else is happening in the world. That's me looking at things from a bird's eye view. Now, a very good friend of ours said, there's a bigger war at play here, and the other little wars that are popping up are just distractions, right?
Yeah.
And he's right, because if there was ever a time that was more mentally challenging than any other of our life existence, has been the past year, right? We're not just talking about COVID, we're not just talking about the restrictions, the lockdown. We're talking about the assault on all fronts, right? Here's the thing that I want people to understand. You're getting played by making this men versus women. It's not. It's not. But this is where it's turned on. That's what I'm saying. There's war that's been declared amongst men, because it's been turned to every person out there is capable of doing good and bad, whether female, male, whatever. So when one person who's a male does something bad, and then all you hear is a lot of females out there saying all men are the same and coming out with all these stories that they're coming out with, you are pitting us against yourselves. And this is where the powers that be want us to be. Because guess what? I now see you as a threat when I shouldn't. I should be seeing you as my sister. But I don't see you as my sister anymore, because I know you're coming for me. So for me, I started noticing this last year. I don't know if you man saw that trend that was going on, men are trash. Right?
Mhm.
That's been there for the longest time, isn't it?
That's been there for the longest time, but I started noticing it more last year, sort of the start of last year, when obviously social media it gained more traction. And you could see people were coming out and having interviews and exposing there were males, especially if you were famous, you would get exposed like, oh, he was talking to this person and that person and that person. There's always been this push that men are the scum of the earth, right? But we've never once stopped and questioned these females. Like, where are you finding these men that you're calling trash? If you're going in the bin to look for men, what are you going to unearth in there? Right? But we don't question people's choices, right? That's your choices. You're entitled to them. But don't come here and generalize every single man as trash when you're the one going in the bin to look for it. That's one. That's when I started noticing things. Two, obviously, we went through the Black Lives Matter. We know we hate that phrase ourselves, because we know the real agenda behind it. But we went through that phase where, unfortunately, George Floyd lost his life in a brutal way in the hands of police. We had a demonstration, police reacted, people got arrested, people got abused, and all violations of powers went on, right? There was no outcry as much as it was when, unfortunately, again, I'll say unfortunately, because wholeheartedly I mean this, when I think her name was, please correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, what was her last name? McGrady or something like that. The female that recently went missing.
Is it Etheridge? Sarah Etheridge? I don't want to misquote it, but I think
I think McGrady or something like that. Anyway, the lady went missing. She was unfortunately murdered by a police officer who was, I have to say this, a white male police officer. Right?
Has he been convicted?
No, he wasn't convicted, allegedly. So I have to
Allegedly,
thank you for correcting me on that. Allegedly, that's what's happened, right?
Yeah, Sarah Everard.
Yeah, Everard. Yeah. So the reaction that happened then, if you go back and watch that, it was men did this, and then all of a sudden stories started coming up.
Yeah,
I've been assaulted. Now, I'm not saying this has not happened. This very well may have happened, but it's the way that it was twisted, and it's the way now it's men against the women. And there's been a lot of things, there are a lot of legislations that's been campaigned to be changed about, I don't want to go too deep because it will get a little bit messy. But there's been a few things that's been happening about men's size, bites and all this. Oh, we don't want that because why is it men's size this? I've even heard someone campaigning to remove Greg's because it's a male name. Why should it be Greg's? It should be something else. From Yorkie, it's a man's chocolate, no women's chocolate. It should be cancelled. It's been heavy, man. I'm not gonna lie, I'm struggling. That's the reality of it. I'm struggling with where the world is at the moment.
Yeah, and that's me as well, because things are just going at a massive pace where it's just like, and I said to you guys yesterday on WhatsApp, like it just feels like a horror movie, but things are happening at like a ridiculous speed, and only kind of alludes to one thing, but that's a biblical thing. All right.
Who dies first in a horror movie?
Well, that's the best segue.
Not in this one.
That's the best segue, because like if we use our podcast as a foundation to this next question, because if anyone was to listen to what we've been speaking about, they would probably come to a conclusion that there seems to be something that's not right institutionally. However, yesterday, I'm sure a lot of people would have seen this. There was an article or something well publicized where it says there is no evidence of institutional racism in Britain, according to a report by UK Government Commission on Race and Ethnic Disparities.
Okay. What's the question?
So,
come on.
My question is, have we been lying? Is this podcast safe? Because the Government Commission has literally just said yesterday, as of yesterday, there's no evidence of institutional racism.
Right.
What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts on this, boys?
Firstly,
Snappy.
So in a snapshot, you cannot put in a report an experience you have not lived, an experience that you have not been affected by, a system whereby you're already having the person who writ the report is part of the system which keeps many people oppressed. So how you can go have a report like that and remain objective when your standpoint is already one side of the fence is beyond me. Absolutely beyond me.
Okay.
You know what's funny? It's like when the police investigates themselves, yeah, and then they turn around and say, "Oh, we didn't find anything wrong." Yeah, but you're investigating yourself. This is what, when we talk more and more about this, we're talking about our experience, yeah, what we've experienced. So when they come out with this report, what does that do? It discredits everything that we've been saying, and it gives a voice to the people who have always said, "Oh, they're making it up. Oh, it's exaggerating. England is the best country in the world," because that's what they're saying. So again, pitting us against each other from the start. And I had to laugh when I saw the report. And I have to say this, boys. There was a part when I looked at it, I was like, wow. They looked at schools and achievements, and they were saying about actually, in contrast to what people have been saying, minorities are actually doing better than most English students. And then even went a step further and said Africans seems to do better than their fellow companions of the Caribbean descent. Mm-hmm. I was like, wow. There. again, it's going back to that rivalry. Remember, we said this from, I can't remember what episode we said about, there was always that rivalry between Africans and, you know, and the Caribbeans back in then, when we would be laughing and cussing each other. They're now tapping into that and making us now look at each other now.
Yeah.
Ain't that crazy?
Man, this is chess, not checkers, man, and they're playing chess, and we're out here still playing checkers. We ain't even playing checkers, man. I don't even know what we're doing, and it's sad because
Dominoes.
yeah, that's what we're doing, chasing the numbers. Because
the big six.
let's look at media in this, just in media, right? I can't remember who reported that first, but I think it was a reputable newspaper, no?
Yeah.
So imagine all the people.
Yeah, it could have been Daily Mail, I think it was.
Yeah. So imagine all the people that didn't even read the article and just looked at the headline. All those people in the Middle England and who's never had to see or, like S said, live or experience that. They that's giving them validation that they can say that because it's come from a reputable source without even reading the article, without even doing any further research. So that's just one way how they're controlling this game, the chess. Do you get what I'm saying? I exactly thought the exact same thing T said. I want to echo that as well about divide and conquer. They're playing this game, fam. They're actually playing the game with our lives, our freedoms, our choices to some extent. And yeah, that's what I have to say, boys.
Level up, level in, man. Institutional racism. What that speaks to is that it's much larger problem than just the average Joe that you see on the street blurting out any racial slurs. That means nothing in comparison to institutional racism, because with institutional racism, it is a organized event. Now, what that means by saying that there's no organized racial discrimination in this country means that they are relinquishing themselves of any guilt of any future racism, because it's not coming from a committee or an organization of people that is structural to this country. It's coming from the individual. So I think I spoke about this in one of the podcasts, which is saying about how England loves the term justice, or Europe in general. They love to spurt justice. They love to spurt out that they are for righteousness. But whenever it comes to bringing them to justice, they will deflect, or they will find a scapegoat. They don't mind sacrificing one of their own, as long as it protects the horde. That's how they think, and that's how they move. Yeah. Jay mentioned that it being a game of chess. That's how they see us, people. We're a game. We're a game. That's what we are to these people. That's why we can be played as a game. Because guess what? We don't make the game. We don't carve the pieces. We don't choose the rules. This goes to what T has always said about making our own table. If that's not a slap in your face, people of ethnic minorities, but I'm speaking from a black man's point of view, if that's not a slap in your face that I don't give two S about you, then I don't know what is. How many more times do we need little moments of waking up? And that's what all this is. All these stories coming out, all these subjects are one step away from. These are all moments to say, wait, wake up. And every time, more of us don't wake up.
Yeah.
Yeah, we press snooze. We literally snooze.
But it's
okay. Sorry, carry on.
No, yeah, stop me, bro. Stop me.
You use the word power. You use the word power, and that's a very poignant word, because the very next day from this commission, I see or I hear a headline. I heard it in the car today, actually. The Met police officer who acted as a recruiter for banned neo-Nazi terror group faces jail.
Yep, 4 years, Drake. 4 years.
22
22-year-old,
years of age.
apparently the 22-year-old is the first officer to be convicted. And my partner actually said that's been caught, is the first officer to be convicted of involvement in a far-right terrorism.
It's a banned
So we
group as
talk
well.
about power. What's your thoughts on that?
Listen,
I don't if you haven't heard that. So once again, if you haven't heard the article, or if you came out today, I believe.
yeah, dude.
A Metropolitan Police officer who had acted as a recruiter for a banned neo-Nazi terror group faces jail. So he got through the system in terms of all the checks and stuff like that. But
Sacrifice.
Can I ask a
They
question?
sacrifice them.
Yeah, that's the long version of it. Can I ask a question? A 22-year-old, right?
Oh, about to jump on that.
Let's go back to when we was 22. Please, listeners, if you're over 22, think when you was 22. Yeah? Did you have the power, the authority to be running game like that, to be recruiting, to be putting all these moves together at 22?
And pursuing a career within the Metropolitan Police.
And fool the
At
actual
22.
Metropolitan, exactly, and fool them. And can I just say something as well? Because now this is the second time, right? The Met Police is right at the forefront. Second time, yeah. And
is the police an institution? Would you say is the police in Britain an institution of some sort?
Yes,
100%. 100%.
Sorry.
So this is what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's the second time. Yeah, this is happening now, right? And when we now talk about how we are treated by the police, people don't believe us. Yeah, but all of a sudden, when it's now, I'm gonna say this because I'm talking from my heart. When it's a white middle-class woman who has gone missing, people start to say different, don't they?
Yes.
Don't they? They start to paint a different picture, don't they? When we're shouting every single day, when you see a police van full of police officers pull over a car in a tactful way, as if this car had done a robbery or they had firearms in the car, and start knocking on the windows as if they're going to smash the windows, shouting out all threats, putting these young boys in handcuffs. And then their excuse is, you could be carrying a knife. You could be carrying a knife. That's why we have to act the way we did for a random stop and search. I don't hear no outcry. I don't hear no one saying, oh, they're manhandling young black boys. But when it's females that have broken the law and went for a protest and started throwing things on there, get arrested, it's all manhandling women and manhandling this. Yeah?
100%. 100%. And the thing is as well, like, what do you expect, like UK, etc., when you've got a 12-week training program and suddenly you can become a police officer? 12 weeks. Now let's look at, same with prison officers too. Yeah, in fact, I think prison officers, 12-week scale. When you look at all the other areas within the justice system, how much more qualifications do you need? To be a judge, to be a prosecutor, to be a lawyer, to be a probation, it takes years. Yeah, who instigates this? The ground police. So there's hardly any training needed to get through to the stage of the initial stage, the ground base of who starts the whole process in the justice system. And you expect quality?
Quality. And you said this is what I heard on the radio today, because one of the, I don't know if it's a justification for how this guy got through, but one of the justifications or how it came across on the radio is that the recruitment of people or for people in the police is being hindered because of how stringent the checks are. Like, I think they said something on the radio today that because like they're missing out on good people, good officers, because you know when you do your checks and you might have someone that had done something in the past, like when they were younger, when they were young and naive and immature. They said that they're missing out on some of the good people that can be good police officers because of the real hard background checks that they've got to do. So I don't know, man. I think it's just ironic that there's no institutional racism, but last time I heard, whether it's a terror group or not, neo-Nazi.
That's extremism. Let's just call it what it is, That's extremism.
There you go.
He is a national terrorist. But he won't be called that. Yeah? And the other reality part of that too is, if someone's able to infiltrate the police, shouldn't his whole station where he's based at, shouldn't they be all checked too? That's how they work with counterterrorism. If you are a terrorist and you're part of a group, that whole group would have to be checked to make sure there's no other further leaks. So that whole police department that he worked in needs to be checked. Their social media, their personal phones, their laptops, their family need to be checked too, because they have possible links to extremist terrorists. But I forget, you're a policeman, so you can't be labeled like that.
Quick one on that, just to echo that. I was about to touch on that and say, hold on, how many times do they do investigations for a year, 2 years, and they will weed out every single one of them, from the leader all the way down to the last recruit? They've done this time and time again. We've seen it. But when it's a police officer, always one. If he was a massive recruiter, how is he just one? Surely you must have evidence of all the recruits that he's done, and every single one of them, bring him up. But it's a single person. Is he even a real person? At this point, we have to ask.
Wow.
We have to ask.
That's a question.
Are we just getting fed utterly BS here? Or is this so-called officer a genuine person, a 22-year-old who's been recruiting for the neo-Nazis?
See, I'm of your thinking. This whole year, all the things that have happened, from George Floyd through to this, Sarah, through to Black Lives Matters, there's a narrative here. There's a narrative of trust and trying to build that trust back up in these main organizations, whether it be the Metropolitan Police, whether it be the government, whether it be, look how Britain are ahead of every other country in Europe in the vaccination process. Yeah? So there's once the trust has been broken, then there needs something in there to be built back up. So now they're questioning the Met Police on how their treatment of any victim or any potential criminal. The Met Police, they had a Met Police officer kidnap and murder that unfortunate young woman. Now we're having the Met Police trying to say that they've found someone within their own walls to be able to kick them out and say, look, we can investigate our own people properly, come to a factual decision and act upon them.
Sounds like a distraction.
There we go. Everything that is happening now fits the narrative.
Okay. All right, boys. Because this is pre-season. Before we go, I'm gonna have to flip the switch and bring it. I don't want to say bring it closer to home, but I want to bring it more kind of social / pop culture. Little NasX. If you don't know, if you don't know,
you're asking kind of question like that.
A video came out that kind of sparked a lot of controversy, outrage, support. I can put some links in the description, or one of you look at. If you know, you know. What's your thoughts on this whole ordeal? So this was the guy that sang, is it called Old Town Road?
Yeah.
Yeah. S, do you want to sing a song? Okay.
Real talk. Why? Why?
I
Why?
want to get your opinions. This is pre-season. Like the audience need to know, the viewers need to know kind of what our opinions are, not just on stuff that we have experienced, but what's
What's your
going on in the
opinion,
world.
Em? What's your opinion, Em?
My opinion, and I'm
Yeah.
happy to start, is that I feel that he has said a lot of things that is a cop out. I think that each to their own in terms of how you want to kind of present your art, if you want to call it art, but you have to take responsibility for the people
Thank you
that
very much.
you're influencing. His first song, or his song that was on the charts for X amount of weeks, whatever, he won a Grammy for that. For one, and I've said this to a couple of you guys, like that was a song that a lot of kids liked. Yeah, a lot of kids got drawn into this guy, because the song, the melody, obviously it was catchy. His response is that obviously the lyrics to the song actually kind of pertain to kind of adult kind of activities, adult kind of lifestyle and whatnot. So he's trying to say, like, you guys are like that, you parents are letting your children listen to this when I'm talking about Marley and all that stuff, or whatever he's talking about. But I think that's a cop out, because we know how the music industry works, and he would have known that that song kind of hit a nerve with a lot of younger people. So I don't think you can kind of use that as an excuse to kind of how if other children are now looking at his music videos now based on his previous works. So I feel that personally that is just gone one step too far, on a lot of levels. But like I said, each to their end. But when you have a platform and when you are a social influencer, a social kind of person, a public figure, you have to take more responsibility. And you might think it's art, you might think that you're doing something for yourself or whatever, but it's deeper than that and it's bigger than that. And I think that these people know what they're doing. But my question is, where's the censorship? Like
Right.
10, 15, 20 years ago, like, I see so much stuff that would not be allowed to be shown on television or kind of exposed to children, or there'd be whatever. But that's changed. The world has changed a lot.
But like,
To grow up fast.
like,
Yeah.
this, you lot heard my audio already, yeah. So I can't even go in as much as I really want to go in. Yeah. I think, not. I think I've got. I make my comments based on the information that I have and lived experience and learned experience, and also noticing patterns. Once again, Lil Nas X, whatever he's called, he got his music video out there by way of a industry. An industry allowed him and signed him and produced that video. There was actors that were hired. There was scripts that were written. There was props that was bought. This was all, multiple takes was probably taken to make sure it was perfect. So whatever you saw in that video was perfect. Perfect. And what was it perfect for? I have to ask now. Well, what's in the video? Representation of some cultist, Satanist, devilish works mixed with sin. And what sin? Sexualized sin. In promiscuous manners, dancing to demons, pleasing demons. Like, I don't want to dip into the whole, well, this is not even religious in essence. It's what I'm seeing in the video. I'm seeing a man dancing to demons and pleasing that demon in a sexual fashion, who children, as M said, like and watch, and he has to take responsibility for that. Now, there's barriers before you can become a X amount of million views in less than 24 hours. There's barriers that you got to get through to get to that level, which means certain people have to approve of it. Who approved it? Who's making money from it? Who doesn't suffer from this? Who does suffer from this? They're the questions that I ask. we spoke about the whole Me Too movement. This is part of the Me Too movement. You might not think it is. You might not think it is. Look at the bigger picture here. Is that what you would see as a man who is in the essence of a warrior? Is that the man who won over the other nation to take over that land? Is that the man who's going to protect you if someone breaks through your door? Is that the man who's going to make sure your child is safe from physical harm? No, it's not. Is that the man that's going to teach your children morals? Is that the man you want to teach your children in school? Is that the man who you want to go to the GP to look after your health? It's not. So let's not play games here with what we find acceptable and what's not. Let's not play games. Yeah, but if I say anything, I get cancelled. Funny that. But he's allowed to placate and dance towards demons and sexualize himself, knowing that children are going to watch him. And then guess what he does? He gets to point the finger at, it's your fault, parents.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yo, I'm not gonna swear, but get out of here, man. Get out of here. You're making your millions of money off doing what you're doing, Dread. And what you don't understand is that that's almost sacrificial in nature. Look at the details of the video. It's sacrificial. It's cultist. It's allowed. It's allowed.
Mm-hmm.
So if you can answer them questions, you'll get to the answer. And the answer comes back to what T originally said, which is what R originally said, was that there's only one war going on here.
Gunshot.
There's only one war going on here. All the other wars are distractions, bro. Yeah, and when you find out what that one war is, everything will look clear, bro. Clear as day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, blessed for that.
The reason why I kind of lost my my cool there when you asked that question, Ems, is man. Listen, there's levels to this that we've not realized. What are they really trying to do here? He's getting paid, but what's the motive behind this?
And who's paying him?
Yeah, who's paying him? We know who's paying him. But what's the ulterior motive behind this is because they want to push an agenda. Time and time again, we still come to the same conclusion. There's an agenda, a bigger agenda at play here where now they're getting to kids. That's why I got emotional, because they're getting to kids now. Lil Nas brought out a song, like he said, kids caught onto it like wildfire. And then the next video he does is that. Because they know like kids are going to be listening. Listen, I remember when I was about 9, probably 8, 9, when a scene came on, whether it was a movie or whatever we was watching, of 2 people kissing, you would be expected to look away. Straight away, your parents would look at you like, hey, look away. You know, this was then. And now we don't have any filters anymore. I remember not even going that far, where you had to produce 2 songs, one for the radio and for everyone else, and one for the YouTube, which is verified to over 18s, which would mean we would have everything under the sun. And then you would have one that's a clean one for the radio. Right? But it's not happening anymore. Why is that?
Yo.
I was speaking to you, Em, sorry, let me just finish this, Kate. I was speaking to you, Em, and I said, we need to look at things on a different level. Young black men don't have anywhere else to go.
Yes.
We need to have something in place where we talk to young black men especially, but we want to go across and bring in the girls as well, so that they've got a clean platform, because churches are no more. They've destroyed that. They built the churches, by the way. Now they're destroying it because they gave religion to us. They gave Christianity to us. Now they destroyed it. So black people are like, where do we go now? Young people are like, where do we go now? We don't have a community we can go to.
Yeah, and in that conversation that we had, I mentioned to you, like locally, we used to have a centre, like we called it a Caribbean club, where we grew up locally, if you remember me saying that. And then that got demolished, that got destroyed and turned into car parks, where a lot of the older generation, that was their place to go, and then they're kind of left in the wilderness. Okay.
Woo. Yeah. Me, first and foremost, everyone's entitled to live the way they want to live. Yeah. I don't have to be comfortable with another person's choices. That's up to them. But where it blurs, where it changes, is that you have a platform, you already have an audience of very malleable minds. Very malleable minds. Like sponges. And then you take it upon yourself to do said act. Now, every artist is entitled to their own interpretation. Who are we to define what art is? But the message is it's a lot. It's a lot. Now, children have got access to computers, laptops, whichever technology they're playing, yeah, or they're watching. An advert pops up. You're telling me that 9 times out of 10, all that advert that pops up in the middle of a kid's thing is always pertains to what they've been watching. Or it might be have a little snippet of a little NasX video. Yeah. Which leads on to something like we all get caught in YouTube wormholes. You start off watching one thing, you end up watching something else 3 hours later. Yeah. That's programming. That's what it's about. If you're happy to live with those choices and put out what you want to put out there, but you're a better person than me. Not man, person. And that's me.
Mm-hmm.
Oi, okay. Where do I start? I can't echo what everyone else is saying. But it's just to me, how can I say this the PC way? How can I say this the PC way? It's part of this chess checkers game we was talking about earlier. To break down someone, anyone, anything, you have to start with the mind. So as S said, it's easier to accept that the best minds to target are the malleable ones, those vulnerable ones, those who, like I said, are still developing, haven't had time to live, experience, understand the world for what it is.
And that goes across a lot of things, like even criminal activities,
100%.
luring, even in the drug game,
Yes.
all of that.
So basically, as Kay said, it's a sinful act being depicted in pretty colors, bright lights, under the guise of a song by someone who said, like you said, it's your fault. I make this song. Old Town Road was talking about me drinking lean and adultery or something like that. I think that's what it's about, and taking drugs and whatever. And you're the parents should be controlling what your kids listen to, which I agree. It's not wrong. I do agree, but it's not, like you said, it's a cop-out. Also, it's a cop-out to say that he is not religious. He doesn't believe in God or the devil. Yet you would use that imagery, which you know a lot of people are dangerous. In tune with, to your own advantage. For what? For clout, for views, for money. Do you get what I'm saying? Like that is very dangerous. That's dangerous territory. You're messing with it. You're almost trying to play God in a sense, or whoever's behind you, the true puppet masters are, and that's what they're trying to do. Like, let's not be around the bush. That's what they're trying to do. They're trying to play God because they're not God, and they want to see how much God-like things they can do before God comes in and puts a stop to it. Because they know he's coming to put a stop to it. But it's just a case of how far can they get. So as technology advanced, we saw it, the corruption or the maturity or the understanding of young people dipped. because they were exposed to so much so early. Like kids, you can give more or less 1 year, 2 year old iPads now, and they will know what to click on to find whatever they want to find. Do you get what I'm saying? They want to go on YouTube, whatever. Like these young kids know how to do that. We're in higher age. You didn't know how to do that. We couldn't just access the internet like that.
Yeah.
Information, we had to wait for the dial-up tone. I hope your mom's not on the phone to access any kind of information.
Blood, I had to look at encyclopedias that were under the stairs in the bookcase if I want to
me?
find out something about someone in the world.
You get me, fam? So now they have it at their fingertips. And like Kate said, this programming, like I said, this program, they can feed what they want when they want to us. So just to summarize this act from Lil Nas X, to me, on the surface, it's just him shock value. To me, he's a troll. It's just shock value. He needs views, he needs money, he needs singles to sell, etc. Behind it, whether he is aware of it or not, but I don't see how you can be a black man in America and not be aware of it. Those behind it, there is a more sinister agenda.
Yeah.
But a lot of people would not see it. A lot of people, even the Christians themselves, they would not believe it. It's like they would just be like, "Oh, he's taking that," but they're not really gonna deep it. So yeah, that's what I gotta say.
I agree. All right, okay. Some interesting subjects, boys. Some interesting subjects. I'm gonna wrap it up with a final question, just to wrap up. We're now coming into the what's the word? The relaxation of restrictions of the pandemic that has been going on for well over a year. My question is, how do you see the world moving? Now things are starting to slowly get back to normal. How do you think the human race are going to be after this 1 year of unprecedented lockdowns, restrictions, rules, changes of behavior, hygiene, cleanliness, coverings of faces, all that stuff, homeschooling? How do you now see, now this is starting to be relaxed and things are supposed to be getting back to the normal, in inverted commas, how do you see the human race moving forward?
Yeah, this one's interesting. Moving forward, I think it's going to be a massive divide. It's going to be the vaxxers and the anti-vaxxers, kind of like that sort of mentality going forward. They're going to have the people who have things relaxed. Those who didn't really believe in it are going to try and push the boundaries as far as they can go. Whereas those who firmly believe in it are going to most likely be steadfast in their approach. And it's going to have to be a new normal we're going to have to get to. There's going to be pros and cons to each side of the spectrum and how you sit as a human on this subject and going forward in the new normal. So I think it's going to be a struggle for the most people.
Yeah.
For myself, like, I honestly feel that, I think I said this at very early stage in one of our podcasts, that I believe people will adapt in the sense of understanding what's valuable to themselves, and unfortunately it will breed selfishness. Because in the COVID situation, we've all been taught to think about our own bubble rather than another person's. And we're being taught to believe that someone else's bubble could be a danger towards our own. And that way, that only breeds selfishness. I must protect my own more than other people. I must, and we saw that as well when it came to the point where shopping, in terms of produce became scarce. Toilet paper especially became scarce. Pasta became scarce because people believed their own bubble, meaning their household, their unit, was more important than other people's units. So what will that do? I believe that things will never be the same. I believe this social experiment has been successful. More than half the population have taken the vaccine. Success. That's a heavy amount of people. And it shows whoever is the power players here put enough pressure on a society and they will do. That's what it shows. So I think it will do more for the power players rather than the civilians. That's my mindset.
Yeah, I tend to agree on that as well. I do think we're being lulled into I think since it started, we've been lulled into a false sense of security. Some of us, I think a lot of people are relying on these relaxation or restrictions to kind of enhance their life. I think that a lot of people have wasted time in actually this time that they've had to kind of reflect on themselves and who they are as people. They've wasted that time for various reasons, thinking that actually being outside, like going here, going there, like don't get me wrong, everyone wants to kind of be out, but I think a lot of people are focused too much on the when's it going to get back to normal when they could have actually really sat down and actually maybe adjustments or thought about actually what's going on in my life, like who am I ready for the new normal, whatever it is. But I think people just want to jump into whatever this new normal throws at them, and I do think a lot of people are gonna for instance, if another wave comes through, I think it's going to do a lot of damage, because I think people think or feel that things are just going to go back to how it was, and it may very well go back to how it was. But if that's the case and people are going to be reckless again, then is this ever going to go away? That's the question. Is it ever going to go away? So I just hope people just at least take something out of the last year. Take something out of the last year, and I pray that people have learned something. That's all it is. That's all it is. But either way, we're still going to be here. We're still going to be here. Season 2 is coming soon.
Mm-hmm.
Season 2 is coming soon. I hope the listeners enjoy something different, just to kind of get a feeling of how we're feeling, because we're not robots. We are human. We are going through things individually and collectively, as alongside actually talking about topics that kind of mean something to us. So, does anyone have any last final words before we close this pre-season out?
2021 and beyond.
Thank you very much for listening, man. One step away from, keep supporting, and we'll keep bringing the fire, man.
100%. Okay, people, over and out. We'll see you very soon. Let's.